I don't know if I want to see it. I heard it was supposed to be really sad.
It's the greatest anime ever! There are these 9 countries, right? And each one of them has this super shiny giant crystal called a soul future. And because they have the soul futures, everyone in the world has like these perfect happy lives. But then these monsters called voids start eating all the soul futures. Wow! And if they get all 9 soul futures, then the great void appears and ends the world. So, one by one, the voids are scarfing them all up and everybody's freaking out. It's so wild! Anyway, that's when the best warriors from all 9 countries team up to protect the last soul futures. They're called the 9 Soldiers, which is just the coolest name. And they all fight really hard to save the world from the voids. But then Luke, he...
corpse.
Sorry, Wolverining is hard. Make it stop. Mangled drive.
You sick fuck! Logan was a hero, and the only thing worth a shit to ever come out of Canada.
Get my country's name out of your fucking mouth. And my sword. Give me that. Oh, I gotta find me another Logan. And a live one. Don't get up, guys. I'll see myself out. Now we're talking. Oh, yeah. That's the whole goddamn package right there.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Welcome to the Monkey Show. How are you guys doing? Hope all is well. My technical difficulties are playing out. So my,
Expert biologist, and when this handsome fellow isn't traveling across the world doing research, he's at home cooking a great meal?
But yeah, that's all true, but Sancho, where did you get that?
An excellent assistant knows how to write an excellent introduction. You got it, boss.
Or taking a long walk on the beach? Who wrote this mess?
all right. Hopefully you guys are having an awesome day or whatever you are, feeling. I hope it's positive. I'm still trying to cope with some shit. And so, trying to get distraction. I actually feel like just, since yesterday, I just feel like lying in bed, pulling the bedsheet over my head and just staying there. Thing is that that is something that I used to do for almost 2 years of my life. And I've mentioned this before, like my business as a comic book store, suddenly like 6 months in, someone decided to actually, after spending my, I guess I spent 2 years researching on how to have the best comic store in the world by looking at the best comic store in the world, which was in Australia. So I researched, I I spent time just figuring out all the different stores everywhere in the world who had, I said, like, tell me Google at that time. Now you can just ask Grok, right? Or Chat GPT and ask, what is the best comic store that exists in the world, and how can I, in my little town, make one just as good? And so one of the things that I learned was that females do not like stinky smells, right? And so BO was one of the top things. Like, make sure that your store doesn't have BO. That when, let me get this vine here, that when females and mothers and young girls, whatever, come to your comic store, that your business, that it doesn't stink of shoe jam, what we call here toe jam, right? Stinky toes, shoes and all that, and sweaty men, right? Especially when they'll be coming in after school and everybody's been running around all day, 5 hours, whatever, at a time they spend at school doing sports day and whatever, or PE, physical education, right? And so that was one of the major things. And I recommend, if you are looking at or thinking about opening a store that has to do with pop culture and hobby, and if you do not want to exclude, as we like to say, the fair agenda from your business, have an air freshener, air spray, whatever you want to call it, handy. So what I would do is I'll let the young boys know that when you come in, and if I think school kids, if your toes are smelling and stuff, I am going to spray your shoes. Which is kind of weird, right? But I worked in youth work, and one thing that I learned was that you got to be direct with young boys, straight up, and just let them know, look, man, listen, I'm running a business here. Your toes smell. You want your girlfriend here. The other guys want their girlfriends here. Or then your mum's going to come in here, pick you up and all that. And she's going to stay outside. And that's not going to be good for business for me, because I'd rather have your parents come in and your young brothers and sisters come in and hang out, and, so I can sell some product, because what's the point of having a store if I can't sell product, right? That's something a lot of, so-called comic creators who are running crowdfunding should learn, that what's the point of putting out a product and a crowdfund, but never delivering on the product, right? So that's bad for business for me. So they knew straight away that, I want them there. I want more people there. I want their friends to be there. I want their partners, girlfriends, whatever, mom and dads to come and hang out and see what that the kids are in a safe environment. And that's the other thing, right? There is no, for us, there was no back room as such. There was a fishbowl room. So that meant that, the area where they were seated playing their games, was a fishbowl type thing, where, there was this huge glass window that was cut into the wall. And there were, sometimes about 10 people in there playing D&D or Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon or whatever, depending what it was, or Magic the Gathering, because at the end of the day, you want to create a place where people can hang out with their friends. And so so the important thing was, hey, let them know that I can't handle BO here, because that'll take away my customers. So they knew straight away. And also, I would have underarm deodorant for them as well. Hey guys, check this on. You're going to be here for another 5 hours, 3 hours through the night. It's going to get worse, so check this on. So instead of going, hey, you guys stink, get out of my store, right? Which is kind of sometimes people do, why not provide an environment where they feel welcome, but also you provide because these guys are not like thinking about that because they've been around their friends all day long, you know, throwing the ball around, running around, whatever. And so I, you know, thing was to go out of my way to provide that for them because they might not have the money themselves in their pocket to go buy a friggin' deodorant. And the other thing was to have a gaming room, right? As I mentioned, the fishbowl, have a gaming room where, you know, that's open and visual, that shows people when they come in that they can see that there are people actually playing there. And by seeing people playing there, they can see the different, you know, games that are being played that you're offering, and also that they can feel safe to play whatever games they are interested in. One of the things I found was, like, when I was doing the trading card games, I had no clue about it. Right? I know at that point I knew nothing about trading card games like Yu-Gi-Oh. However, I did know, and I still have them, way back from 2003-4, Simpsons trading card game. I'm not sure if you guys ever seen that, but those are pretty cool. Like, you had like 6 packs or something, you know, and they were really simple, easy to get into, which is why I like them. Because when it comes to that sort of stuff, I am very simple-minded. I'm not very nerdy when it comes to gaming and stuff like that. So at the moment, I'm actually, you know, thinking through and have got ideas for a game for our, you know, Zeolandia world universe, which is, well, this is the universe there. Let me just bring up this, get some different artwork up here. Where are we? Open Sesame. Now, folder. Zeolandia 2024. Fantastical Romy. Let's see some artwork, all right? So the idea for, you know, because I love Risk. Risk has been, I haven't played in like 3-4 years, maybe even longer. But I used to play 5 to 6 hour long games of Risk. And that sort of, for me, was the epitome, I mean, what you call it, you know, the highlight of games to play along with Monopoly. So when I started creating Zeolandia, I thought about how, you know, and I've been thinking about creating a game since 2003, right? Or actually, no, I'll go back. 2001, and a board game, that is. And that was because that's when I was huge into Risk. I even figured out what game I wanted to create with the Risk thing. But of course, as you know, that's somebody else's you know, IP, and it's better to create your own IP because then you don't have to worry about you know, somebody going, oh, it's mine, you can't use that, you need licenses and all this, and they got to pay them a percentage, right? And normally it's about 10% or 15%, depending on what sort of thing you have. And so you've already lost that much of your profit. What is going on here? I can't, hold on. My folder here is trying to say, well, open slower, open faster. So I'm clicking stuff and I'm clicking too fast, so I'm clicking too slow. Right, here we go. Get back onto the actual PC folder. And so, because, you know, and it's such a, Risk is such a great thinking, like 5 steps ahead. So for me as a writer, right, as a creative person, it allows my brain to think, well, what's going to happen 5 steps down the road when I go to, you know, if this person does this, right? What's the reaction to that? What's the response, right? What's the outcome? And so one of the things that, you know, visually, you know, I wanted for this game was to be able to do it like we come up like here we go. So it will look like the Risk game. The gameplay would be like Risk, but it would be a what is it called? It's like a merging of Risk and also Monopoly, right? That in a way that when you played it, you're familiar in the gaming aspect of it, but you're also wise to how games are played, right? I mean, like how Monopoly is played, how Risk is played. You build your with Risk, you're building your armies beforehand. Then you got your cards. Then you do your attack cards, and you got your dice and your defense. So there is that, but also I wanted to have the uniqueness of Monopoly where you can build stuff, right? And you could go in and do that. And like it's going to take me a little while to think about it, to come up with something that works. But isn't like it's not like just a rip off, right? Because the last thing you want to do is just a rip off of somebody else's IP. And this is it's more like an inspiration than anything else. Now, is it coming up? There we go. So this here is some of the artwork from the actual comic book, right? And I think this, if I'm looking at this, I think this is issue 1, because we've already completed issue 2, right? The inking is already done for issue 2, but we haven't even released issue 1. So it's kind of like I wanted to make sure that we're at least another issue ahead on our bigger projects, because you want to I personally want to make sure that we have a finished product when we go to Kickstarter and so on. But and I wanted also if the game to be easy for me to play. And a lot of times, people actually that's wrong altogether there. That a lot of times people create games that are easy for them to play, but also difficult to others. But I'm a simple person, right? When it comes to games, so I wanted to create something that was going to be simple yet easy yet interesting. And I think doing a crossover between let me just grab this here, block that off so I can select this. That was familiar game, but also good to play. But the thing here is that when you're building a game like that, going out on your own is tough, right? Because you got to have all the at the moment nowadays you can just do 3D printing and stuff and do your your characters or your tokens, such cards and so on. I mean, printing cards is easy, right? Because we work with printers in comics, printing out comics. So it's easy to just find a printer to print the paper and stuff. But then you get into the more hardcore stuff. I was like building a box. I mean, design work for me is easy. That sort of stuff is just easy. Now, I have an artist now, right? Joakim. I can just say, hey, Joakim, we need this design here for this. Can you design this bit here? And so we have this really cool world map. And then around that world map, we are able to, work around all these different areas, and then you can have like add-ons, like we can actually like a DLC, but it's not not downloadable, right? So it's like you can buy add-ons for as we develop the story. And I think it's something like I go, well, it's not going to be happening soon. It's like 5 years, 10 years down the road, once all our story is up to about 12 issues, which is what when I start going, okay, now we're gonna grab all the stories together, put it into a trade paperback. I mean, a hardcover collection, and then let's work on the game while we continue working on the other comics. Now that we know that the world that we have, all the characters are designed, then we can bring in other people to, other artists, because Joakim and I have designed these characters to work as, in this universe, the species, you got the mermaids, merfolk, you've got the demi-humans, which we haven't even got to yet, fairies and stuff, and all these different fantasy creatures and characters, because it's such a amazing world when you work with world building that you can do when you work with fantasy, storytelling. And the great thing about that is that we are able to have so much information and research ability now available to us, and there are so many amazing artists out there who you can reach out to, whatever your fees are affordability wise, and have them work with you according to your budget. One of the things about being a writer is that you're able to come up with amazing ideas based on what's already gone ahead, right? Inspirations and stuff, but also the joy is to create something new in the genre that you're working on. I think for me, I've gone so far away from the whole idea of creating superheroes or doing that superhero universe that there's only one more I guess IP or book that I'm going to bring out that's going to be about that's going to have superheroes in it, or the element of superheroes, and that is Blackbirds, right? Which I've posted images of it, their characters and what they do, and we're going to be introducing that first, probably in about another year from now, because we haven't, as a story, introducing them into this crossover event that I wrote, that we're working on, that we will be working on over the next year. It's a huge work, about 80-page story for the first, the world building for the first arc. So that, we're introducing, let me just go way back here. Yeah, I thought so. I was like, why am I just mucking around with that there? I could just select the whole lot and then clean up all this. Actually, go back, give me an extra 1 pixel. There we go. That gets rid of my whites. There we are. And I'm someone who hates crossover events. I really do. I despise it because there's so many crossover events that has been done that are just there for the sake of selling comics. Right? That's it. It's not about story. It's not about adding anything new, Like there was a time where it was every 6 months Marvel was doing a crossover event. So whatever came before didn't matter. So it got to so that the shops were saying, stop doing them. You're driving away customers, please just stop, right? Because nobody's going to buy friggin' 88 comics. Nobody can afford to. Because if you're releasing an 8-issue, crossover event, right, which is our first arc, And then out of that, you're releasing a 4-issue, then you're releasing a 6-issue, that has to do with like somebody that's tied into that, like say like it's a Batman, right? So Detective Comics does a main event, crossover event, right? Now you got 6 issues of a Robin comic book. Now you got 6 issues of a Batman and Robin story arc that has to do with that Detective Comics main story, right? Then you've also got a 6-issue or 4-issue Batwoman. Now you got a Birds of Prey. And now you got a Harlequin. Now you got the Joker. So that drove a lot of people away from supporting crossover events, because it was just like, oh, let's just wait for the end of it all to finish over, and then they'll put out a trade paperback. And if we want to read that, then we can read that. And then they would release, maxi series of like collections of all the all the story arcs that they had as part of the crossover. So you had like about 6-issue trade paperback of, of Batman and Robin, or Batman, or Bruce Wayne, The Dark Knight, all that sort of, or the Shadow Knight, whatever. There's so many freaking books. And so you kind of go, well, I'm just wasting money, and instead of supporting anybody else, I'm reading the same shitty stories over and over again. I remember in the store, I brought in, the year that I actually opened the store was about October 2014, right? And so when we opened the store, I filled it up with lots of back issues, my own collection, my own private collection, which are like, some pretty expensive lots, nothing over 1,000 or something that I would want to put in there. So, but like, I would have like, $30, $40, $60 comics. I remember selling Batman numbers, I think it was 606 to 612 or something like that, which was like the Jim Lee White Hood, whatever that thing, the guy with the bandages on his head, his cousin, brother, or whatever the freaking thing. It's become huge now. Selling those 6 for about $60 New Zealand, which is about $30 at that time US, or close enough to that. So very cheap, right? Very cheap. But you had to, you had to sell what you had to sell to keep the, the bills paid, or the rent paid, or sometimes to eat. But you had to, so I lost a lot of, what now is known as big ticket items through that period, which I kind of regret. But hey, sometimes you just got to invest in yourself. You got to do what you got to do, which a lot of Kickstarter people don't do, crowdfunding people don't do. They don't really invest in themselves. By saying a lot doesn't mean all, right? A lot of people get confused with, like, when you say a lot, a lot could be like 500. So where was I on that? So they put out so the DC event at October 2014 when I opened up the store. I spent another $500 on new back issues, right, to be current, like say about 4 months or 3 months current, right, back issues. And that was so that was like here in New Zealand we have what our main Comic-Con is Armageddon. It's awesome. Used to be very comic book centric. Now it's gaming and corporate centric, right? Like video gaming and so on. So comics is basically like like a tag on, right? It's not a main thing anymore, sadly. However, they do support Artist Alley and New Zealand Comics. And I've talked with Bill, William Gedditz, and I've interviewed him previously. He's a great guy. They started in a little hall, right? In a little scouts hall, right? Here in New Zealand, way back when, 25 years ago, I think almost. And now it's like built to where they're over, they're able to put on events over in Australia called Supernova, if I remember right. I always get confused whether it's part of Armageddon or not, but yeah. But here in New Zealand, in most of the major cities or major areas, Armageddon has an event on throughout the year. But the main one is always October 1 here in 2 hours away from me, which is 2.5 hours away from me, which is in Auckland City. Right? Most main concert events go to Auckland City. It's like almost like our capital, but not a capital, but it's just big as. So I went there that year in October, right? So because we opened like about just at the end of it. And so I went there. I paid a friend of mine, because I don't drive. I don't own a vehicle and stuff. So I paid my it was my flatmate, the person I used to rent with. So he took his RV, or what is that? Is it RV? I guess. People move, not so much a people mover, but like, Anyway, so we picked up display units, picked up $500 worth of back issues from a fellow New Zealand comic shop owner, excuse me, and, came back and set it up. Put on a barbecue the following weekend to launch the store. Had a good turnout and so on. However, around about mid to late 2015, DC had a Convergence, which was the most, I hate that comic crossover with a vengeance, event, which basically destroyed my comic store. Like, one of the reasons my comic store was destroyed. Like, had to close down. Right? They put on this big, huge event. So kids were coming in going, yeah, I want this. And they were like keen as. And then after 2-3 issues of reading it, they didn't want it. But as you know, with all orders, you're 2 months ahead. Right? You're ordering 2 months ahead of with your comic books. So, and then you wait, and then it gets there. And so if it sucks, you're stuffed. And so, yeah, so Convergence sucked. And it sucked really, really bad. So I was stuck with like all these 1, 2, 3 issues of all the, the crossovers, events, the main story had ordered in about 3, and here's the thing, right? You can't send them back from New Zealand. There's no point sending them back from New Zealand because the cost of freight is freaking horrendous, right? So what I was doing was I was going through, like the same person I mentioned earlier, the comic store. I had a deal with them that I would pay, 10%, or kind of like $1 extra per comic book for delivery if I could attach, which is pretty good, to be honest, to have him, order comics through him every month. But when you're 2 months of your bills allocated to dead comics, mainstream comics, for an event that they say it's going to be a huge event, but then within like 6 months it doesn't matter, and they open up a new event, crossover event, and then they do that the same again. when you're on that cycle, that rat wheel, all you're doing is losing money. And everybody talks about the dollar bin, how it's great for collectors and for readers, but it's not for the store. The dollar bins are the worst things for comic stores, because that's where they've lost their money. Because they, say you in New Zealand, a dollar bin store is basically $2, minimum $2. However, if you're getting a comic book from the US, think of the amount of freight charges just in that one comic book, right? And now times that by 30. But then they do it by weight, so whatever, or 100 or whatever. But you can't send them back because there's no point. You might as well throw it away at that point. So a lot of stores basically just go, here, it's a $2 bin, heavily discounted, and it's just, it's just a loss leader, as we say in sales. And I spent like about a decade of my life in sales, professionally, working for businesses and stuff. So all that is there is like, oh, hey, we got some cheap comics. Hopefully you'll come and see that, and maybe you'll grab one of those, but can you please buy that $10 one? Because that $2 comic doesn't even cover the price of that comic book for a store. The wholesale place I'm talking about. However, as a former comic store owner, what I would do is, like online stores, I would buy those because just for the fact, I would add it to my whatever comics, just so they would, it'll clear out those comic stores, inventory, because it meant that they had some, they could add a couple, bit more to their bank account that month. And this is why I do not like Marvel and DC, because of how they treat comic stores. They, for decades, like I think maybe since 1990, maybe just after that, they basically treat stores as bank accounts, just like some as for interest-free bank accounts, just like a lot of crowdfunding people do, who say, oh, we got a product, buy my product, and then we'll deliver it in like 6 months or whatever. And then they like don't deliver at all, and they've especially if you're watching this, who I'm talking about, Ethan Van Sciver, right? Who's basically and a lot of the CG crowd who will have their campaigns open for years, undelivered, or just add on more stuff, and and I've heard that people haven't even got their head sketch from like 4 years ago, right? Imagine that. Imagine paying $400, because I think it's around about that much. That $400 is around about 700 New Zealand dollars. That's a week's worth of wage, right? Around average, I would say, before tax, by the way. Before your PYE, before your medical insurance. Like in New Zealand, we have like what's called ACC, which is accident compensation. So you pay a couple bucks into that, then you go to PAYE, your tax, and so on. We're quite heavily taxed in New Zealand. One of the highest taxed, I think, in the world. Just make sure I'll get this vine right. Sometimes you got to pull back and see what's going on. I might, with these, I might have to go darker because kind of feel like it needs to be darker underneath because the slime is a clear slime kind of thing, or vine. Actually, no, I think it's fine with that. I might just have to like remove these lines later, but I know what's going on here. So this is a manga cover to cover A, I should say, cover A to the manga, which is available here for free to read, by the way. Right now we're doing like a page a week. Where is my mouse? Mouse is sleeping. All right, here we go. So there's a link. You guys can check it out later. But this is it here. Let me get rid of that. Bring this on. Stop screen. It's on Webtoons. It's free to read. We're up to about page 10, I think, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're up to page 10. So here we go. So this is a very, kind of like a movie, slow burn movie manga story. Fantasy, supernatural, not fantasy, but more supernatural horror. Slow burn. Right. How does this work? Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to see. Here we go. So you can go 2, 3. That one. That's what I was like after. This is, you can see it's like heavily pixelated because I'm zoomed in so much because I'm cutting up these pages. Cutting up a comic book page to, into a mobile reading page. And there was like a whole bunch of streams I've done about me doing it. Every time I do a new page, I come up on here and I like, work on it. That way, Anyway, so with Marvel and DC, their whole reason they only are producing comics nowadays, and I'm thinking of this as a business sense, is about market share. Is to stay relevant as a company because they don't really need comics, to be honest, because they have the movies. Movies bring in more than the comics put together, right? Because all that the comics are doing is market share, adding value. So as someone who knows a bit about shares and about IP, right? Because I'm creating them, is that the more IP you have, the more value of your shares goes higher. So every time DC produces a new comic book, the value of DC goes higher on each of their shares. So say DC creates a new character, that new character now adds 1%, share-wise, to the value of DC. So for DC, and this is the thing about shares, right? When you're a business person, it's important to know about the value of your IP. Is to know, how much something is worth, so that when you go to take your book somewhere else, or you decide to sell it, that you will have an understanding of what it is that you've created, because a lot of people don't know that. Honestly, this is why like a lot of comic people need to go to business school, right? Or do business courses. Do a 6-month, 3-month crash course in business. Now you can just do it online, It's so easy. Or hey, guess what? What's even easier? Just watch a freaking really good, YouTube video, and you will know how to run a business or how to value what you have created. Every time I create a new IP, comic book, story, it adds value to my shares, to the value of my company. Once it's printed, once it's registered, and it has value. And this is the problem I see a lot of times with comic creators. They don't know that. They're ignorant of the business side of things. So today, Elasmit's thing, right? Elasmit's thing, I shouldn't say Elasmit's things. Hey, Cass, do you want to come on, man? Just hang out, talk, shoot the breeze. I was going to say shoot something else, but shoot the breeze, right? Let me know. I will, let me go there. This thing is really annoying. The setup, it's like the screen is so small right now, man. Like seriously, it's so small. I don't even know why that is that small. Okay, now hide. Give me back the screen again. What? Wow. Okay, so what I was going to do is that the one? Here you go. Here's an invite, just for you. I did send one on X for. Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's there, mate. So yeah. So this is the thing about I was talking about shares, right, with DC and Marvel, right? So let's say they get a writer in with a pitch and to write one of their books, and then he goes, well, I'm going to introduce this new character in there. So this is what happens. All right. So the first thing that happens is, okay, so we need to get somebody to design the costume. What are you envisioning? Because a lot of times writers don't know shit about comics and art and anything, right? And most of them just come out of friggin', college, as you can see by their quality of their work these days. They have no life experience. So they leave all the creativity, all the skills, all the thing on the artist to do. For me, I don't do that. I will never do that. Because I come from stage, right? On the stage, I design the clothes, right? I design the props. I design the look of how it's going to look. I design how that lighting is going to be set up, what music we're going to play, and then ask people to help me, work it out. Like, how do we make this reality? So that's the same way I work with comics. It's like, okay, so this is, I've got this idea now. I'll go and let it regurgitate in my brain. Right. So KSS says, writers and artists don't know. To be fair, most people don't know. That's why 65% of businesses belly up in the first 5 years. Yeah. I mean, look at comics. People are just, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to create something, and I'm going to take the Kickstarter, and, and then I'm going to, take your money for it, and then I'm going to give you a product, and hopefully you'd like it. It's like, how much time did you spend on your product? How much time did you spend developing the logo, the title logo? How much time did you spend thinking about the character's background, the family unit, if they have one, right? How much time did you spend working out in your head, right, or on paper, or on your tablet, or whatever, how this work is gonna, how it's gonna look in the end. How it's gonna be received by people when you actually put it out. How are you gonna package it? I remember when I was creating Incredi-Girl way back in 2007, right? And I had this design for her shirt, her costume, which was originally was based around Alpha Flight. Because I love Alpha Flight growing up. It's one of the, I used to read that and used to buy and read it. So there was the female who I don't know the name of anymore because it's been a long time since I've read, a comic, a mainstream comic, a couple of years. But also it's been a very long time since I read Alpha Flight itself. I know Pug, I know North Star, but there was the sister, right? The husband and sister. Sorry, not husband and wife. The wife, and she had this, the maple leaf, right? The Canadian maple leaf. And so my sister said to me, well, that kind of like ties you into New Zealand. Is that what you want to do? That doesn't really, that really limits your audience right away. And I'm like, shit. I just spent all this time, all these hours, a day or two, or I don't know what was a lot of time, coming up with this design and figuring out this is how it's going to look. The silver, gray, black costume, right? Because it's designed around the New Zealand ferns. Because we have, we call like the black ferns, the All Blacks, you'll see on their costumes, they have like costumes. Their sports teams, they have the ferns. So it's like the black ferns, the All Blacks will have the fern, and so on. It's like, it's kind of like our motif as a country, as well as like the Kiwi. And I think I might have tried doing a Kiwi on there as well. So, and I tried so many different ways of designing the costume, like 20, 30 at least, right? And so by the time I actually just checking this line here, making sure that because I know this is so there's some dark pieces with the shadows on it, there's some light pieces, but this is a branch here on its own, but it's in the background. So I got to make sure the shading that's coming over the top makes it look realistic. So I'm just trying to figure out this. So I'm going to put up cases. Right. So I realized this is actually not actually a piece of timber here, like the tree. This is a tree, but this isn't. It kind of sucks because that means I got to go in and remove it. So let me just put this up before I cast this comment. So the one, yeah. So here we go. So, man, I guess he goes, I'm going to run my own business. I'm going to be self-employed. Okay, you don't have a boss. But that means you're working 7 days a week, 12 to 18 hours a day. A lot. And it means you don't, and it means you get paid last. 100%. The boss always gets paid last. Nobody who's never ran a business understands that. a lot of people talk about it, like especially in the SJW crowd, the we need a union crowd, and I'm all for unions, but I left the union that I was part of when I was 17 years old. Right? I'm happy for unions. I have my uncle's is in a union. He's a union head, right, for metal workers. But a lot of those guys, all they care about is they take their money home, do their work, and go home. They don't think about how the business is going to run, if the business is going to survive. For them, they just like, oh, they'll just go do some other job, right? An employee can look for another job any day. A boss who's got all his money tied up into it is basically gonna like spend decades, not decades, I shouldn't say that, years trying to replenish, get back the money's lost. I'm talking about unions in comics. Image. Remember when they try to strong arm, the wokies try to strong arm Image into a union? The problem here is what unions do is that this downside, like for all the good they do, the downside of unions is that you can have a shitty, horrible worker who will show up late, who will not do their job to the best of their abilities or what they been hired to do. They will, oh, that's what it is. I got to put this in the background, so it's got to be a different color. And a much darker color, since it's way in the background. And since, because it's a very dense forest, and I was thinking like, it's not making it very light. So there should be like trees behind trees behind trees, which is what's here. But I'm not doing that, which is where I messed up. So, so you're paying the same rate that you're paying the good worker as a stupid loser worker, right? And the other workers are looking and going, whoa, this is shit. And this is why I left the union. I was like, why am I paying $2 a union and I don't think it wasn't much about like that initially, but that's what I learned over the years, right? Why I didn't want to be a part of a union. That if I'm working really hard and the guy next to me is going very slow, why the hell are they getting paid the same amount as me? Just as I mentioned the other day when about how we had a person who would, I'm doing like 3 jobs. My 3 years doing my degree, I was doing 3 different jobs, right? I was a bistro chef, which meant I was, making fish and chips, fries, steak meals, high-end steak meals, right? The best meat you can get, apart from like the one, what we call the rib fillet, the ribeye. Apart from that, I was making every other, the best steak meals, because I had people come on just for my steak meals. So every friggin' Sunday, $50 on the counter from these 2 people. For $50 every Sunday for 2 entire years I was there. Give or take 3. Right? So just by me making a good meal for these 2 people, a husband and wife, and all they did was just come and, have a beer or 2, have the meal, and go home. That was it. They just sat there, ate the meal, drank the beer, and went home. Right? Within that, like 40 minutes or something that they were there. That's 50, 2 times 50, right? Times 3. So let me do, so let me do the maths on that. So it's around about $30 US. I opened the wrong freaking thing. Where are you? open the video editor instead of the freaking calculator. All right, close the video editor. Open the calculator. Can you open? Okay. I guess I'm going to use my mobile. All right. Using dual screens is freaking weird, man. Like I'm on my Cintiq, right? This is my, like what you're seeing here, like this is my Cintiq, but I'm looking at the screen in front of me, which is a 43-inch TV, right? Where I'm reading the chat. So, oh yeah, so that's what I was going to do. Let me get my calculator out. So this is what I brought in just for my, you know, by myself, just being there that every Sunday. And when I should be at home or hanging out with my wife, I'm doing a Sunday, a Saturday, an evening cooking for people, right? And then some other day on a Saturday or Sunday, I'm painting. Or a Saturday, if I'm not on shift, I'm selling towers. I'm working in the back room of the warehouse, right? Cleaning up or moving towers, right? And so 3 jobs, 3 different part-time work that I'm doing while I'm studying full-time for my degree as a filmmaker. So let's just say 52 times 50 times 2.5, right? 2.5 years. So I alone brought in $6,500 just in steak meals, just from 2 people to my business, to my boss. And they didn't come in for, if I wasn't there, they never came in. They would come in, like I was told that they would come in, look, he's not here, I'm leaving. They would walk out, go somewhere else. So for, and that's just one customer, right? And I've had that with like, when I was working in another business, as a tile salesperson, when I left, that business went down. Because there was only about 3 of us there. 4 of us actually. The boss who was like doing the accounts, orders in his office, all right? That's where he was always. Unless he was asked, specifically asked by me to come in, if somebody wanted to see him for whatever reason, and there was something technical I needed to figure out, he was always just shut in there. With a glass window where we could see him. His wife was assisting me, in sales, so she would, if I was busy, she would pull up. Otherwise, it was just me. Or if I had to go for my breaks and so on. So, but yeah, and sometimes, she was great lady, great Maori lady, and they were a mixed race couple, right? As you, in New Zealand, it's normal. I know people, and overseas people freak out about that. But like, yeah, they were in their 50s, 60s actually, going on to 60s. And this is like 20 years ago. So good couple, really looked after me. However, they lost the franchise, so they had to let me go. About 6 months later, they went under. I think it was 6 or 8 months under later. Later they went under. Because what had happened over the time that I'd been there, that people word had got out that I was there, that if you came to saw me, that you would get be treated fairly, you'd be attended to, and so on. Like, you'd have my full attention, right? I wasn't worried about how much money you spent, but as long, and if I made a mistake, I'd call the boss in to fix it, and so on. But like, so everybody was like always, would tell their friends. We live in a city, there weren't that many stores, but like, the thing was that the word had gotten around that, hey, go see Aru. If you need this, and if you need this, then go see Aru, and he's at this place here. Anyway, so unions, however, like and this is what I'm talking about, we're talking about unions, which is what, Cassius and I are, talking about here, about his response here about Image, how they try to really destroy Image. Now, and here's the thing, again, back to the bosses thing, right, about him. Like, nobody realizes that so it was like about the bosses, that the bosses get paid last, pay themselves last. Nobody realizes that after paying employees, bosses sometimes makes very little money, right? Makes do with very little actual pay, take home. And the other thing here is that they carry all, what is it called? All the risks, right? The employees do not carry any risk. They just show up, do their work, pay, get paid, go home, their weekly pay, right? So all the risk is basically carried by the boss, by the employer. Now, the other thing we're talking about here was Image Comics and the union that the Wokies tried to put on them, which they shut down very fast, and that's good. But they try to pressure them into it. Same thing with like the coffee makers union, right? See, if you're a coffee maker, you don't need a union, dude. I make my coffee every day myself, right? So I know how easy that friggin' thing is, and I used to make my coffees in a cafe. So I know you do not need a union to be a friggin' coffee maker, right? However, if you're a friggin' engineer and you're working for a huge company where there's a risk for you getting murdered, killed on the job site, right? Because something fell, or electrocution, right? And it's a dangerous, you're like a miner. My dad used to be a miner way back in England, right? Coal mines. And they had to have like a canary in there, right? Take a canary down into the mines in a cage. And if the canary died, then you get to get the hell out of there, right? Because that means you were next. And here's the other thing. Back in those days, coal dust, people didn't think about coal dust and what it did to you. There was no health sort of understanding about that. So a couple of years ago, compensation was paid out to my dad and his fellow workers from England 30, 40, 50 years later for what that did to their health. And that's what you need unions for, right? However, if you're a coffee barista, you don't need a union. If you're a wine waiter, like I used to be, right? Hello, sir. Can I offer you, a wine list? And what is your suggestions? Well, what are we having for dinner today, right? Chicken. Well, if you're having chicken, or even let's say lamb or pork, how about a nice rosé or a Pinot Gris, or maybe a Sauvignon Blanc? Do you like it? Do you like your your wine a bit tart, right? And so on. And you suggest that, and I studied that for that shit. It wasn't just like, random, hey, I'm going to just get this job. No, I studied for that, right? And so when I offered something, the idea is that you, as a customer, knew that I wasn't talking shit and just trying to upsell you something. I go, no, listen, You try it out. If you don't like it, you know, you don't have to buy anything expensive. It's up to what you want to, you know, what taste this is. I could sell you a very expensive wine that would really ruin your meal, right? and you'd be like, why does this really expensive wine taste like shit when I'm eating this? Because the, you know, the spices in the food does not go well with the wine that you're eating, drinking, right? Or that you bought. You just paid $50 for a wine that you should have just paid $16 for or $30 for, right? Whatever the uncorking and, you know, price of the bottle is or whatever, glass. So, I mean, for me, like, I like Pinot Gris and Pinot Noir. It's a middle range. I like the wine sweet, right? Because I drink a lot of bitter drinks. So if I'm having a meal, I like a middle of the road wine. So New Zealand, Pinot Gris and Pinot Noir, red and white, Gris being white, Noir being red, right? Dark, whatever you want to call it, is very nice. And we have the best wines in the world, to be honest. And we've won quite a lot of awards from New Zealand wines. And if you're able to get one from New Zealand in your, you know, in your local, do try it. And I recommend, oh, there we go. I thought that was a bit off there. Do try New Zealand wine. We do have the best because it's the climate here that, you know, that gets those friggin' grapes doing their really magic on it. That does magic on it for the grape in the vineyards. That's why, you know, we have some of the world's best vineyards, both commercial and, you know, private. The other thing about that is, by the way, talking about like unions and bosses, do you know, I think it takes about a decade or something like that for a wine, right? I'm sorry, for the first bottle of wine to be processed, because you have to grow that vineyard, you know, for years and get it right and stuff. And imagine being a vineyard owner, right? And every season there is a bad temperature, weather, frost, and you know, all that effort you put into last year or the decade, it's all gone to naught. And this is why I despise people who talk shit about farmers, right, ranchers and whatever have you, because they know nothing about what it's to be a farmer. But all they know is it appears in their bottle store, and they can just take it to the counter and it's there, right? Or, you know, fried chips. Yeah, it just suddenly is a fried chips. Like it's you know, frozen chips, I should say. Frozen chips. Yeah, it just appears in a bag and you just buy it and you take it home. There's nobody actually growing it. There's nobody actually paying for fertilizer to make sure it's a healthy product. There's nobody there paying for, you know, insecticide or, you know, slug killer. You know, keep all the stuff you got to do just to grow one single freaking potato, one bag of potato for like mass market, right? For the grocers. But yeah, the unions. One thing that's like really the wokies have done is that they've used unions in a very weaponized way to destroy industries. And as I said, you know, if Todd and the boys there had not killed that whole thing quick, fast, in a hurry, they would have been weaponized and would have been the start of every other union to do with comics around every other small press. Now, there's a comment by, it's hiding the comment, this new comments thing is hiding the comment that I'm trying to put up here. Here we go. So 20 years ago, I worked at UPS, KSS, for a few months. I said I wasn't interested in joining a union or paying union dues. I was told, then expect your paycheck to get lost. How's that? That's basically threatening to not, to not be paid for work you do, right? This is the bargaining power. It's actually, also and this is what would happen, the weaponizing of unions has been happening for a while, right? There are those who, run unions fair and they understand, and then there are those who just are in it for themselves. And, and especially with SJWs, you let them into a union, they will weaponize that and you'll be done. Because they don't think about what's best for everyone. They only think about what's best for their own personal interests. And mainly, their personal interest is what their activism is about. See, when I go to vote, I don't vote about what's my interest. All right? When I go to put, because, hold on, I think I have something here I need to fix. So that goes around there, that comes around. Okay, so there's going to be a tree there somewhere, a darker. So let's fix that. Because if you live in a country and all you think about is the only way I'm going to vote is for myself, or if my mayor or my council, or your local whatever leader doing whatever, your schools, I think if you only think about what's good for your child, or what's good for your street or what your little suburb, you should not be having the right to vote. But, not in that sense of that, you shouldn't, but you should really rethink your reasoning for voting in the first place. Just don't cast your ballot at all, right? As they say. Because don't cast your vote at all, because, you're just wasting it. Because I think if you're not thinking about your neighbor and their kids, or your neighbor's kids, right? Or what's good for your entire country, community, town, suburb, city, then all you're doing it is for yourself, and you're a selfish human being. One of the things that let me save this, because I noticed it was going a bit slow there, lagging, as they say. And while that, I am going to close a few more tabs, in case the tabs are causing me to lag here. Because you really, if you're in a society, right, if you're in a community, you got to think about that community as a whole, right? That what's best for everyone, not just for you and your little family. And I'm watching this around the world recently, where people really don't give a shit about anybody else, just for themselves and their own family. So they vote that way, or more than often, they vote in line with their activism, ideology, and stuff. And that's harmful for society, when people are voting with activism and ideology. See, I don't like every single thing that Trump does, right? Nor should you. However, he's not my president. Also, what he's doing is not for me. So I'm not bothered by it. Right? He has been voted in by his own people to run the country the way those people want. So the most obvious thing is like, well, I don't live in America. I don't have a say in American politics. He's not my president in the sense that, what he does not affect me, because even though it does, because, America runs the world in the sense of like what is set forth, right? Because everybody looks to, not runs the world, but everybody looks to America for leadership. A weak America and a weak American leadership is a weak and contentious world. And a lot of people don't understand that. And it's quite sad, because it's like just shows you a lack of, education that a lot of people have about these things. I mean, I've watched, I've sat in political, meetings where I've watched a friend of mine who was a socialist, and I was a socialist at that time, think that it was okay to have mass immigration. And this was in the 90s. That anybody could just come in, buy up any piece of land, and do whatever the hell they wanted, in New Zealand, and that'd be fine. They just, that's what I did. That's what I did. I was supposed to darken this one to be like, this one was supposed to be like this, and then that one was supposed to be like this. So I need to get my light on. Oops, no. Oh. That brown. And that brown gave me that brown. Nope, that brown. Right. And then the one behind it is a darker brown. Oh dear. Well, that sucks. I'm going to have to do a color select. Perfect. Okay, so there we go. Now, this pink isn't going to be pink. It looks so pink. It's more like pink than freaking brown. It kind of sucks. And then this other branch is coming from the back here, behind it. So let's give that a dark one. So, so I'm not worried, because everything, will get back to its alignment as people understand that, if you want to do business, it's you got to go, you got to go into a partnership with America. If you want all the great things America has to offer, well, you got to pay your tariffs, because it's freaking weird, man. Like, New Zealand, people understand this better than anybody else. In the sense, New Zealand business people understand this better than anybody else. The reason for that is because for years, to get our products into Australia, we had to fight the Australians over apples, over kiwi fruits, right? Taxes, just to get into America, get into Australia, right? On their shelves, to sell in their friggin' grocery stores our apples and our kiwi fruits and our, not bananas, because we don't have bananas here, right? We import all our bananas. So we had to pay a tariff. And that would screw us over, because they also, and oranges as well. So because they also grow oranges and freaking apples. So their own, their unions will try to keep us out. Yeah, oh, it's got a fruit fly. We found a fruit fly from New Zealand. Oh, it's gonna ruin our industry here. And we had that for decades. It was tough on our farmers, having to deal with that, knowing that there's a market there, but they could send their shit over here willy-nilly, right? I don't know the exact workings of that. It's been like 30 years, but it was like they could do whatever the hell they wanted, and so on. Like, and the same thing like with, when China stole our golden kiwi fruits that we had developed. New Zealand developed as zespris, right? And they basically stole that and mass-produced it in their own little friggin' orchards there. And people think, oh, China, they create everything, make everything cheaper. And it's like, yeah, they've stolen billions of dollars of our products that we have lost out on as a country financially, that we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars developing. That also goes with all the American products, manufacturing, design, R&D, billions of dollars, I should say, not hundreds of millions, billions of dollars that were spent developing those things. From a single headphone, right, to a board game from Milton Bradley, a Monopoly game. So a lot of people go, oh yeah, he's so harsh. It's like, you guys don't know how much billions has been lost, maybe even trillions lost from your country because of China. We know how much, because we're at the bottom of the world. We can see the rest of the world, right? When you're at the bottom, you can see the shit floating to the top, as the song goes from Tool, right? Is it shit goes up to the bottom. Anyway, whatever. I can't remember exactly, but I think I got the wrong song lyrics mixed up. Kept thinking that like the color was wrong here. Oh, damn! I don't know what happened. My left hand kept touching my pinky kept touching the screen, and so it opened up a whole new friggin' layer here, color, doubled up here somehow because of that. It's like, now it's screwed. So there's this one here. It's not even, there's nothing on it, and I kept touching it. I mean, clicking on it, and I kept going on the just up here. It kept going on the friggin' transparent one. So I was like, why isn't my colors not working? Okay, so yeah, so imagine, like, look at Apple, right? I know Google, right? Oh, I think it's probably Google's. Samsung. Sorry, Samsung. Let's go to Samsung. So Samsung had the entire, OS stolen by China to make Huawei phones. Because China hasn't created anything new. They don't have any creative people there to come up with anything new, and those that have, they have been taught in America and overseas. So if you go, oh, China's created so many amazing things. No, they haven't. It's a lack of understanding and lack of education on your part and on part of others, if that's what you think, if you're believing the propaganda. Electric cars, they stole it from Germany and from Tesla, right? So the thing about this is that when they took all these things across to China, because, you know, it got costly to produce in their own countries, and I still think that I think Apple's Foxconn, which is Apple, now that they've gone to, and I don't want to talk about all this other stuff, but, you know, just trying to work out this whole union thing, right? So when they took it over to, when they basically, I think they've just taken their last warehouse out of China, because they were getting strong-armed and everything by the Chinese government, because they're stealing all their IP. And they were like, yeah, nah. And also to help them, help, you know, Apple and so on and all these other companies, Trump said, I'm going to put tariffs all on Chinese things coming into America. So these manufacturers, like, I mean, there's, you know, Foxconn and all that, so many friggin' decided, well, it's probably the good time now to use that as a way to get the hell out of China. Instead of, like, make $2 and lose $1. Right? Which is what happens when everything you're creating is being stolen by a competitor who doesn't have to pay licenses, who doesn't have to worry about the safety of their products, right? Or getting sued because, hey, they're in China. China, you can't even buy land as a foreigner in China, but they are ready to buy your land. And stupid politicians are happy to sell to them. And then land and water is the most important thing as a country and as a human being. The moment you think land and water is not, then you just might as well just dig a hole and just lie in it and stay there like a ostrich, you know, put your head in the sand. And so when you sell your land and you sell your water rights, you're taking away your citizens' ability to build a home in a, you know, and buy land in a way that's beneficial to them, than to a millionaire from America, England, Britain, you know, England, Britain, same thing, Australia, China, Japan, pricing you out of your own country. So this is why, you know, as Kiwis, we understand a lot more about these tariffs. I mean, I know I do, you know, than what people, you know, especially those in the comic scene, know. I think, so if those people at those wokies at Image had gotten their way, it would have destroyed the entire mainstream comics industry. Indies would have done their thing, like us out here, us out here doing our own thing, right? We would have been fine. But those people who, you know, at Image, Dark Horse, Dynamite, that would be done. And here's the other thing about comics and the quality and ruining of these smaller people, you know, businesses like publishers like IDW, Boom. There's some other ones, right, that had that recently have had real bad trials. There was a company, I can't remember what they were called, a small fresh comic company. I mean, part of the, I guess, the Big 10, not the Big 5, that or might actually be in the big five. That was, damn it, that was, they did a TV show. They put all their money into making a TV show. And they tied that all up. And this is a problem that a lot of comic people don't understand, is that just because you make a comic doesn't mean it's going to sell well. Even if you're, part of the mainstream. The top selling comic, I guess, would be like a Batman or a Spidey comic, right? Those are always good. They're very well known. That allows for a shitty what's that one that they put out called Batman Universal or something like that? Batman Worldwide, to exist for 12 issues, or 6 issues, whatever it was. Because the money that Batman, the main title book, brought in, can be used to pay for the creation of the other one, as well as pay for the artist and so on, right? And a lot of these, comic people in the pro scene don't understand that. They don't see that they're actually taking from Paul to give to Peter. That someone has to write a check that your book, that they're taking a gamble on your book to produce. They're gambling with somebody else's money to put out your book, right? And the hopes that your book might get a 10,000 or 20,000 or what have you, so that they can then take some of that money, put it back in the bank for the other book, right, to continue printing, while also putting it towards some other new book, gambling that might also be bringing some money. So it's like a shell game, really. Honestly, in mainstream comics, it's a shell game. Comics itself is a shell game, to be honest. It's an art form that's escapism. It's entertainment. It's not necessary to eat or to live on, as I say, right? It's a guilty pleasure that we, as mainly men, when it comes to American style comics, read. And put our money into. So let me get back to KSS's thing here. Talking about his parents. Sleeping mouse, wake up. So grandparents. So KSS says, go down the line. There we go. My grandparents and godfather all worked in the steel mills in the 1950s and 70s. There were unions, and they too had to worry about their lungs. Yeah, this is talking about my dad's lungs and his friends who worked in the mills in the 60s and early 50s and 60s. He's in his my dad's in his 80s now. And they got paid out about $3,000 or whatever it was, according to their position and how much time they spent in the mines, in the coal mines in England. And this was like about 30 years later they got paid out due to the health things. There are some actual documentaries made about that. And he writes, I'm not completely knocking unions. They did start off to prevent workers from being abused and worse. But as time progressed, there was a lot of corruption and abuse from the unions too. Road to hell. Exactly. So, Cassius writes here, back to comics. I heard Tom Taylor, a writer from DC Comics who's Australian, ranting about Trump. I remember thinking it was odd he was mad about our president when most Americans couldn't even name his president. Oh, you mean his prime minister, right? Because Australia is just like New Zealand. We only have prime ministers. We don't have presidents. Yeah, and this, China famously, China famously ignores trademark and copyrights from other countries. They steal. They just steal. They do. Right? That's it. Like, if the fact is that, somewhere along the way, all the goodwill, because the whole thing was that China was starving. The people were dying. Socialism killed China. Around about 60 million of them. In the 60s. It took them forever to get out of that. And in the 90s, they opened themselves up to America, to the world, and said, hey, we have lots of workers. We're going to go into manufacturing. We're going to build, we'd love for you to, we're going to open our doors to the rest of the world. And there was a deal made in 30 years ago in the 90s that, that there was this fair deal that was supposed to be followed, and then the commies didn't, like they normally do, right? Commies never follow the rules. And so rather than being a good partner and a good host, they just stole everything. And then sold it to third world countries for really cheap. And then after 30 years of watching this, Trump gets into president, is voted in 2016, and he's like, we can't do business like this with China. This is bad faith, right? We entered into business, the world, not just America, the world, but America was the one that was like getting harmed the most. Because America produces a lot of amazing product, right? Manufacturing-wise. Because they spend a lot of friggin' trillions of dollars on R&D. And because democracy and capitalism grows creativity, harnesses creativity, allows, and this is why I'm a capitalist, and I will always be. Because it'll, sure, there's downsides to that. There's always a, what is that called? Something to the rule. There's always going to be bad actors. But as a whole, capitalism is what allows the world to come up with new products, to get fair pay for those products. Unlike communism, they just steal those products and then sell it to the lowest denominator that they can sell it for, to undercut everybody else's, profit. Because they're like those people who basically are leeches on the back of a, of a pig or a dog, and sucking it dry and slowly killing it, right? While being, while reaping all the rewards of being, carried everywhere, moved around, and all that, and all the nourishment that the pig, eating all the food can provide it. It's like a vampire, basically, right? And the West became a blood bank for China. And so this is like everything. It's not just just cars or thing. Comics, it's everything. Anything that goes there gets duplicated, faked, and sent to countries like in the third world, which harms those third world countries' economies. Look at what's happening in South America right now. Africa, they're throwing it all out. They're like, we don't want Chinese products here. It's undermining our economy, our own production. Our own workers are getting, are getting ripped off because it lowers the economy of the workers, like able to afford. If you're selling a product, say you're selling a bread for $1, but it's costing you $1.50, but because you have like 1,000,000 bread, it's fine, right? But if you only have 100 people, it's not. So, I'm not good at explaining economics and shit, right? But it's basically, undermining everybody. And now it's harming them themselves. Finally, it's come home to roost, right? And they're learning the hard way that people do not like being treated like that when they've had, when they've worked hard for something. And so, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's all good, KSS. We're just like, we're just like them. But they have a federal government as well, though, right? It's kind of like it's a weird system they have. They have states. We don't have states, right? And they have federal, stuff, and we don't. But it's prime ministers, but they don't have a president, Yeah. So, yeah, I watched somebody else in the indie scene scream and yell about Trump from Canada, and I was like, you really don't know anything. And, sadly, that's a lot of people. When it comes to tariffs and what have you, there's a lot of people who don't know nothing. But they think they do, so they speak and scream louder, right? Because usually the loudest chihuahua, is always, sparking the loudest. I also say that smallest chihuahua, right? Anyway, so imagine, where are we? Better save this because I think I'm going around in circles here. I need to get some greener here, but I don't want to do the trees until the leaves and all that, until I've had the main vines and branches and things sorted out, because I want the tones right, between the different colors between the trees, the further away they are, or the types of trees, because they're not all same trees, right? In a forest, they're all different types of trees, and they're not all young either. They're all different ages as well, But if I can get my vines right, I can just color drop the tree colors. Like this one here. And I think one thing I've noticed about indie comics and even professional comics, the only people that succeed are those who know business. And the only ones who fail are the ones who don't want to learn business, or want to learn from other people, or who have never actually thought about how to run a business or what makes a business thing. Everybody wants to be their own boss, but don't know what it's like to be a boss. What most important thing you can do for yourself is, before you do it, like getting back to, all the way back to Incredi-Girl and creating Incredi-Girl and costume-wise for her, was to work to perfect whatever it is that you're trying to do. Show it to other people. Tie them into a NDA. Don't please, don't talk about this outside of us unless I give you permission. I need I need you to look it over, what, and so on, and whether it's going to work or how does it feel. Does this look right? And a lot of people are stupid because they don't want to have other people look at their work or judge them, right? I had a guy, so I don't know what the situation was, but I was on stage one time during this like comedy thing, and I got off stage, and this guy said to me, because just saying that I used to wrote stuff. I've actually written 3 novellas, but I've never produced it. All right, like about 140 pages each. And they're all standalone. They're not all standalone. Sorry, it's a story about a primitive dude going on a journey and the things along that journey. It needs a total rewrite, creatively wise, right? It's got I would never put it out like it is now. I would add another 100 pages to it of more interesting stuff. But I wrote it when I was about 26 or something like that. 24. But it can be, basically it's got the bones, but not the flesh. It's got the bones to be a great story, but not the flesh for it in its current stage. So that's a whole novel there. That's 360 pages. I think I was writing about 5 of them. So yeah, there's around about 400 pages of novel, right? So it could be one single novel, or 5 novellas or 4 novellas, whatever it is. I haven't looked at it in about 15 years or something like that, I think. But yeah. So when I was not only the costume for Incredi-Girl, right, but also the logo. It went through so many different names, right? For the actual title of the book, it went through so many different designs of logo. Like I said, about 30 minimum that I can think of in my head, top of my head, right? And just over and over, I just kept going, no, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. Until I got this, what I call the, reverse IG, right? Logo that she's got now, which is, save, where's the cover? Import. Because, and here's the thing. It wasn't until 15 years later that I got the right logo for her, when it came back to came back to comics. After almost I don't know, maybe 5 years or a decade later. Could have been, yeah, around 8 years, maybe, yeah, 6, 7 years later. And so, where are you? Where's your cover? Oh, here we go. Wait, no. Oh, here's a card by can I see it? Here we go. So yeah, I don't actually bring it up here. So this is what I'm talking about, this IG here, right? I didn't, it took, like, so it's set there for about 8 years with all these other different things. And then when I came back about 2019, and I was asked to come back to comics or, you know, continue creating comics or not. And I said, yeah, I'll come back and create comics. My publisher, so about. And and I was like, I don't like that logo. This is about 15 years later, and just did a whole new thing, right? This one here, this is a change from if I remember right, I think we just changed a whole new logo design recently because I don't like the logo for one of the different characters. So I'm always trying to rework and stuff, no matter until I'm really, really happy, because if it's going to be there and it's going to be there forever, because that's the whole reason, thing about comics. When you're creating an IP, you got to think about how it's going to look from 10 years, 20 years down the road, and whether you're going to be happy with it. It's better to change something right away or before putting it out, before you go to print. And this also comes with professionalism, right? There's a lot of there's a lot of unprofessional people in comics. So one of the things that is huge, and especially in comic books, unprofessionalism is like the key in comics. Amateurs thinking they deserve $200 a page who've never written a comic before. I mean, who've never worked on a comic book page before. But they've come out of college and they think that, art school, and they think that, they deserve $200 a page. It's like, oh, okay, so where's the previous book you worked on? Can you show me it? Did you work with a publisher prior to coming to us? Coming to work for, over here? Got purple. Why does it look darker here? Weird. I'm going to go up and clean all these lines later. These pixels, I should say, later. It's weird how like this, right, is this, but this looks lighter because of the lightness between the two. Like that, like because this is dark and this is light. So between the two, to the eye, it looks like it's lighter, but it's not. It's kind of like confuses me sometimes when I see that. It's like, am I seeing the right thing here, or what's going on? I mean, the right tone of color. Now, is it the same color of that? Yeah. Close off some lines here. Wait, damn it. I hate it when I think it's one thing and then it's another thing. So I'm like looking at this, so it's like, this is a knot on the tree. So because it's a knot on the tree, it actually hangs out over it. So, minus. So it can be, looking at it, for me, looks a bit confusing. But then there's like, the grass and stuff that's going to go over that. It's going to like, or leaves. It's going to mess with it. Just like that. I think that's clean. Yep. It's clean. Give it a 1 pixel over. There we go. Perfect. Not too dirty. But that area there. Okay. Coffee. It's gotten cold. Notice there's a little bit of white showing there. And then also, gotta get his nose curvature kind of right there. There we go. Is it about right? No, it's not. He's coming down on that. Just a little bit more. There we go. And this over here, there we go, finish him off. Back to the right. Pull out and I see. Okay, so that's a branch that's coming down. I think over time, I think I'm going to get faster at this, coloring wise. But that's all, learning a new thing, coloring or color flatting in this case. Is actually, like I was saying, like investing in yourself, right? Is actually saving me financially, because by spending spending time myself coloring. Wait, is that? Yeah, okay, I see what's. Damn it. I noticed that this here, the lines weren't smoother. You can see here it's really picks off. My pen's twisted on me, so I'm touching the buttons constantly. So the in out, zoom in and zoom out button. So you can see here it's like very rough because I had the wrong. I must have pressed on the wrong setting, and so it looks really pixelated. And now it's nicer. Just that area, see, between here and there, because of anti-alias, whatever. Of doing that, as you can see the difference between that and this, and even here, right? And that sucks because it's going to look horrible when you go to print, and it's that pixelated. It's not going to have that smooth lines and stuff. Okay. Not that it's going to look real, too dirty, but like pixels can make, especially with digital, I've noticed it can make it look dirty if the pixels are large. So at the moment, that's why I use 600 dpi, 600 pixels per per inch. Okay, so if I go up here, yeah, the reason I can say it's a broken branch or branch coming down is because he's put a plant onto here, right? put like a wild orchid. Orchid plant, or whatever you want to call it, because they're those that grow on trees. My dad used to grow champion orchids. When my mum, mum and him married, and he'd been to Orchid Growers Club of New Zealand. And so early on, it must be the 90s, not that early, I guess, I realized how beautiful, because I was looking at it, like, because there was always, orchids around the house, or like in the garage or whatever, because, had to have a warm temperature, especially in winter. You had to like bring them inside. And so you would have them in the 80s in the garage on the bench there, workbench. But around about the 90s, when I started doing art, and painting and stuff, oil paintings, acrylic, I started noticing how diverse orchids from around the world were. And like these amazing flowers, they can be very pricey and very beautiful and hard sought after, depending what it is. There's actually a orchid tropical flower plant, I guess park or something you call it, I don't know, in Fiji. It's where it's like I think it's called the Sleeping Giant. It's in Nandi, that I went to one time, and took heaps of photos and stuff, and I can't remember where the bloody photos went to, because I think I lost the SD card. This is like back in about, I think it must have been about 2005 maybe, or 2002. But it's really beautiful, and you're just walking through this area, and it's all like really tropical, and they have like thousands of them, man, like all these different friggin' flowers, and I was like, it's just the beauty of it. And so I started painting them as part of like, okay, let's see that. Just trying to figure out here. And yeah, let's vine. And if you've never seen an orchid, I like them more than I like roses, to be honest. I think as a flower and beauty of it all, they're much more, because they just grow in the most weirdest places, but they grow in forests, right? So they could grow in South America or in Asia or in Pacific Islands. And the colors on them are just beautiful. And that's the other thing, like, when you're like doing comics, colors is a very important part of of this whole friggin' art form. And I was watching a Les Met's stream today, and looking at some of the work that he was showing from Zap, and the discussion was about the color there, and the colors that Zap used for his minimalism. Like when you look at the way that Sin City and Frank Miller in his heyday as a profession, in his profession as a as a creator for his own book, he did something very, very cool in that the way he used lighting and minimalism. I was getting tongue tied with some words, man. How he used yellows and reds and just made it stand out, without having to use so many colors. And it's this stylized style of, that's his unique style that really, and his color choices really work. Same thing with Mike Mignola, We love work that stands out because it's unique and different, and we appreciate unique and difference more than we'd like to say. However, you have to experience unique and difference before you can appreciate it. I love the fact that being from New Zealand, having grown up in New Zealand, I should say, as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, I was able to experience so many different. I thought that was going to be bad. The line work here. That I, got to experience early on as a child so many different forms of comic works, right? Styles, cartoon strips, like you said about Goofy and Donald Duck, at the same time looking at Judge Dredd shooting bullets, from his Peacemaker into, it kind of makes me laugh when, like, Peacemaker, being the John Cena propped up character now, right? With James Gunn and all that. But it's a TV show and all. But like Peacemaker is basically, if I remember right, is Judge Dredd's gun. The guns that the judges uses, right? Might be wrong there. I don't know. Just off the top of my head, I think I might be right or wrong. I don't know, 50-50. But yeah, so when you're seeing ultra violence like that at the same time you're reading Goofy and Donald Duck and Tintin and Asterix, you cannot help but appreciate both, both sides of that art form. All sides, I should say, not just both. You got Chopper there fighting against the system on his surfboard, right? Zooming through the sky in Mega City 1. Then you got, Donald, was it Goofy? On the TV, So I've never ever felt the need to put down one style or dislike one style over another style. And this is what I love about working with so many different artists with their own unique style, right? And from different countries, because what that does is actually highlights my stories in a way they're just working in one style of or working with just one artist from one country would do for me, for my work, I should say, right? And I realized another problem I just did. Yeah. This is another tree. Damn it. And this is slime. I mean, not slime, vine. So I have to go here, go there, and go check a color, and do that. So that saved a lot of work. And select, wait, hold on. Pick the right one here. Continue. Selection referred layers. No, referred layer. Yeah. Got you? No, it's made it worse. Color selection then. Single. Nope. Color selection it is. Thank you. And that is that. Oh, okay. I have two different colors on that. The trees all became green like that. Okay. Minus cut you out. Mama said to cut you out. There we go. Now that can go in there and fix that. But yeah, weird. I didn't realize there was a tree there. It's just the way that the forest is layered here. That my artist Tomas on this manga cover is layered, because seriously, like, if you look at a forest, man, or brush, whatever have you, this being a tropical thing, it's just layers and layers of stuff. So he's got a tree going that way. And I got to make sure I'm doing it the right way. Otherwise, I want to mess up what he's trying to do here. So it looks like it's just it's the same tree, but over here somewhere the branch is bent. Rather than, fallen over, it's just bent. I've been in a forest, as I mentioned before, as a teen and so on, as adult, to know, the different ways trees bend and grow in forests, especially here in New Zealand, because of the rain and so on. And gonna block these out. Colors, where's that? So that's there. Maybe think of Carol colors, or as she is now known as Carol Clout, from England. I do not know her personally, but I know her. She's a nice person through her chats and comments on streams that I frequent. And I don't frequent that many streams. It's one of those things. I'm like Groucho Marx. I only go. Is it Groucho Marx? No, I learned early on to only go where I am wanted, or be where I'm appreciated. I think it was my 20s. I learned that there's no point hanging out, and I mean in real life as well, around people or places or work where your skills and your talent and you as a person aren't appreciated. A lot of people moan and bitch about their jobs, right? Because we're talking about unions before, so it's tying back into that. And they don't leave due to fear of not being able to find another job, or or that they feel safe in where they are financially, but they might be miserable as a human being. working there. A lot of men cause a lot of problem in their homes working at jobs that they despise because they bring that hatred and anger and frustration they feel at their jobs home. Because where else are they going to take it, right? Because they can't take it to their bosses because they'll get shit. Bring that violence in. So there's a lot of domestics caused around that due to workplace situations. Like people get, being bullied at work and shit like that. I was watching Weapons yesterday. I just before I did some more work on this, I was like, I just don't feel like doing anything. I just feel like just lying down and just moping. So let's just put on a movie and then just thing. I give it a 7 out of 10. By the way, if you're thinking about watching Weapons, do not watch any trailers. Again, do not watch any trailers. But I would say if you were thinking about watching it, watch it. It is a good movie. It's above average. And it's, if you like horror, you'll like it. That's what I'm going to say. I don't want to spoil it. There was a couple of things that they could have done better, but that comes with every friggin' story, right? I think we can become very nitpicky with anything that comes out now. But so I gave it a 7 out of 10, and for me that's a good, good thing. I would have given it an 8, but there's one thing that was like that I felt like kind of could have been better story-wise. What the audience needed as a payoff. Okay, so I blocked that off. Gotta block that off. But if you're thinking about watching Weapons, do check it out. You won't dislike it. It's like Smiles, right? Smile. That's a pretty cool horror. And the first one came out. I think is it the one I saw? I think saw it at the movies. Yeah, one of my friends invited me out to see that at the movies. I don't need to think that because I just need to lock these. Once again, if you are an artist or illustrator, make sure all your lines join. And this one here, right, doesn't have to join, but because it's about visual aesthetics here, that's why it's not joining. But if you are working in what I would class as American comic style art, make sure your lines join. Your pencil work or whatever, your inks join, sorry. Because it's very specific when it comes to American art style that they all join. Right. They're not like here fading into that because a manga's got a very interesting when it comes to coloring and stuff, like it's just different. There's always all these soft lines and stuff. And so I don't, because I can tell when I'm working on different works where that's, what's happening because having working with different artists. Okay. It's a bit more. Slime. So the tree goes here, or the slime goes there, then the tree comes here. Man, there's so much going on here. Then the slime also goes up here. The branch, slime comes down the branch. It's crazy. It's done a lot of work on this. It's pretty well thought out. The thing about this is that it's just the layering on this is so good. Look at the depth of field, like all the way back there, like from the front to back. Because I've seen like mock-ups of Tomas's planning, where he has lines going all over the place, because this is the center, right? And so it's got all these lines going there so that everything is proportioned. Even this one here, Kirsten, she's just slightly in front of Amber here, right? Just slightly. So her body is just looks a bit more bigger, because like she's all the way over here, right? But yeah, the more I do these, and I already appreciate all the work. I mean, like looking at the art when it comes in, just as thing. But the more I look at these cover works, I can see the amount of effort and that has been spent on these cover works compared to a normal page. Not saying that the pages, but the repetition of the angles and stuff on a panel, for me is why I think comic art is better than fine art, right? Which is why I've spent hundreds and thousands, probably dollars, probably three thousand. No, hold on, maybe about 300,000 K, right? 300,000. I've spent on comics throughout my life, or maybe more. I don't know, but I know it's a lot of money I've spent, and why I would spend it on this than on paintings and shit. Because comics, for me, is fine art. And so I treat it like it's fine art. And I treat it as something of value. And so when people overprice or, overprice what they think their work is worth against somebody else's, I'm like, yeah. You're not a Jim Lee. Right? You're not a Frank Miller. You're not a Kevin O'Neill. You're not Jeff Darrow. Darrow. The guy who worked on RoboCop. That dude. However, some of a couple of the artists, there are some amazing artists around these days that are actually better than those guys, but they're not that well known. Because the reason for that is because those guys, these new guys, grew up learning how to be like those guys, right? Who trained looking at those people's works. So unlike Darrow, unlike O'Neill, unlike Miller, right, what have you, these guys didn't have to come up with this style. They had to just go and look at somebody else's style and improvise that style, right? Change color, fix that. Your Yeah. Oh, there's a new movie. There's a TV series called Sentinels that's coming out. I'll play this trailer. I'll put it up on my on this channel that you are on right now. Where's this? My mouse went to sleep. I always forget that my mouse goes to sleep to save battery, and then I'm always like shaking it, turn on. It's like, no, I just need to click the button. So, videos. So here's a trailer for, oops, I need to, it's what I would call like, it's a comic book movie, right? It's a comic book movie. Actually, let me grab the title so I can put that in chat. So this is Sentinel. It's French, and just the way I look at this, I see this as Captain America, but French. Or at first I thought it was Uber, right? Do you guys ever read the I think it's put out by Avatar Press, called Uber? I love that series. Very cool. It's like what if the Germans had the super soldier serum, right? And then also I think the Brits as well. So it's during World War II. But here, check this out. So let me see, make sure that I'll just have it a bit low just in case it's too loud, because can't really always judge the.
L'Armée est presque aux portes de Paris. Nous sommes très proches de perdre cette guerre.
Qu'est-ce que je fous ici? Je dirige un programme qui peut nous faire gagner la guerre. Un sérum aux propriétés uniques.
Veuillez préparer l'injection.
Votre puissance sera exceptionnelle.
Et après quoi?
Vous rejoindrez notre unité d'élite. Gabriel, bienvenue chez les Sentinelles. Les Allemands sont prêts à tout pour gagner cette guerre. Si leur programme est voué à continuer, c'est toute une armée de super combattants qui anéantiront notre armée en quelques jours.
D'abord, je veux voir ma famille.
Malheureusement, ça n'est pas possible.
Vous jouez avec la vie des gens, mais vous savez rien.
J'ai besoin de savoir ce qui est arrivé à Gabriel.
C'est un chemin dangereux, mademoiselle.
Je dois prendre cela comme une menace, monsieur?
Comme un avertissement. C'est un ennemi puissant sur un champ de bataille. La peur.
Apparemment, il y a une espèce de démon là-bas.
Et je vais leur retrouver leurs soldats, là. Et je vais saigner.
Couche-toi!
Having your own movies, sort of like not movie, sorry. Get rid of that. You know, having your comic book being made into a movie in a different language, you know, and let me bring this up. Yep, back to work. So you can check out. It's coming out on the end of this month. It's an 8-episode series, and the story is 1915. Oh, it's World War One. Damn it! I thought it was World War Two. So it's before the Nazis, right? Thing. So World War One, 1915. French Private Gabriel is presumed dead. Selected for a top secret program, he's given a serum that makes him stronger and faster. To see his family again, he must join the Sentinels, elite soldiers on a mission to end the war. So we're so used to seeing World War II all the time, right? So seeing World War One stuff is pretty interesting to me as well, right? But one thing I found from first, when I was looking at, one thing that I thought was interesting was the makeup of the mask, right? So let me pop this mask, grab this mask, because I thought it was, it could have been better. Like the design for the mask could have been better. But then we're looking at, they're trying to do the whole 1915 and it's I was wondering if it was based on a comic book or not. And that's something that, like, because that's the first thing I thought. And it is. But let me get this friggin' English thing happening here. So I'll show you this. Change. Stop that screen. Bring on another screen. Les Sentinels. The albums of the Lost Sentinel series. So there you go. So it is based on this. Now you're talking about albums, it's a comic book, graphic novel series, right? Tome 3, Tome 4, Tome 1 to 4. So, right. So now they've based it on this series here from Delcart. Now, what I can't figure out, let me do a let me see if I can get ChatGPT to tell me a bit more about this thing. Tell me about the Sentinels comics, please. Spell the comics right. Because, yeah, the first time, as soon as I saw the whole, okay, can I get some, what, am I in France now? In English. So, yeah, because the mask made me think, and like the super soldier serum made me think, like, this has got to be a comic book series, right? Or comic book character. So the series publication, the series is 4 volumes. July to August 1914, Harvest of Steel. September 1914, The Man. April 1915, Ypres. That's a place. Oh, so these are all place names. Well, Man is a place name, I think. Ypres is. And then number 4 is 1915, the Dardanelles, right? Published by Delcourt in France. There's also an integral edition collecting all 4. So it gets like it's an omnibus. Now, when? Right, so Les Sentinels is a French comic book series written by Xavier Dorison and drawn, colored by Enrique Brissier. It is set during World War I, but an alternate history, right? Uchronia. The French army develops a... Hold on. I thought I was showing you guys the whole thing, but it's not. Get up there. There we go. What is this? There you go. So, as I try to read this information. Right. So, the French army develops a special unit, Sentinels Division, soldiers who are technically augmented. The key invention is the radium battery inspired by Pierre and Marie Curie's. Of course, if you know about history, actual real world history, Marie Curie radiation, right? She didn't even realize she was being killed by her invention. Marie Curie's research, which powers their enhancements. So it's not like so I thought it was a serum, but it's not. It's actually radiation battery that empowers them. So the story is Gabriel Furad, a young scientist originally against war who invents the radium battery, right? Telfer, the first Sentinel, he's lost all his limbs. He's the first Sentinel. He lost all his limbs in battle and is rebuilt using the radium technology. Other Sentinels include Djibouti, an ally of the in the unit, and Pegasus, equipped with rocket-like gear that allows flight. The enemies include enhanced fighters on the Germany and Ottoman sides. So this is the cool thing, right? Like being World War One, you get to see the other war that isn't mentioned that often, right, in movies and stuff. So this is being an 8-part TV series based on these 4 volumes. Usually they're around about 48 to 60 pages, right? So like movies in themselves. So having these, what I like the fact is not just one movie, like one 90-minute movie or 2-hour movie. It's, you know, it's a whole series of episodes, and let me see how long they are. So there are 8 of them, and it starts on the 29th of this month. It doesn't say how long it is. So I reckon it's about an hour long, right? So just let's see if that's available in English as well. I reckon it is because the Delft Court is putting it out. It's these books are available in English as well. Okay, so they've got no English. It's weird that Delft Court hasn't got an English publisher for this. Okay, when was the comics made? When released, I should say. When were they released? (2008), right? So 2008 and 2011, so 3 years there. 8, 9, 10, 11, 4 years. So volume 1 came out in 2008, volume 2 2009, volume 10 2010, volume 4 2011. And here's what how many pages per each? Pages. Good art takes time. I shouldn't say good art takes time. Good comics get time. How many and I say that sarcastically. How many pages are in each tome? Man, not good typing one-fingered with the left hand. Right. Yeah, see, I said it was about 40 to 60 pages. So yeah. So these are 56-page color comics put out. That's like 224 pages over 4 years. So 56 pages a year, fully colored. Wait, hold on. Let me just see. Is it colored? Is it? Was, you know. Yep, full color. Look at that. So the artwork by Enrique Bressier and his style is very expressive and painterly, with bold brushwork and heavy use of color contrast. The coloring adds a lot of blah blah blah. Yeah, so there's a lot of atmosphere, saying like smoky battlefields, metallic textures of the augmented soldiers, and the grim tone of World War One mixed in with science fiction. I'd love to read this. Look, yeah, this is what they're talking about here, right? So you got the metal. Check out the album. Okay, let's go see. Look at that. So you can see here, like in the movie, in the TV series, they've changed it a bit. Delcourt is amazing. Like I love their work. Whereas, why didn't you show me? I thought you were going to show me interior art. Pursuer. So yeah, so two of them, writer and Bressier being the colorist and inker, illustrator. Can we go to where are we? Yeah, so Delcourt publishes American comics in French, right? As well as manga and so forth as well. So wouldn't mind like working with them to get one of, let me get the link so you guys can check that out later. Because I find this very interesting. Like the art is beautiful. I love Belgium, French style of art. I like, me as a comic fan, I love comics. There is nothing that I like more than to see comics done by talented artists from all across the world. And I've read quite a few Delcourt, Belgium, Franco-Belgium and French and so on albums over the years, and I own a few myself. Now, what I wanted to do is show you guys some actual art pages. So, Sentinels art interiors. Let's get some interiors going here. Interior page. Here we go. Oh, this is beautiful. Hold on. I'll get. We'll show you what I'm looking at. Get rid of this page. Or the screen, I should say. Then get to this screen. Are you open? There we go. So very, very, very European style. Love it. Right? Sadly, it's not available in English, and they should right now get on board and grab a friggin' English, because this, with the TV series coming out within a month, people will be going, where the hell's this from, right? And then they'll find out about this as we are doing it together with you, right? I don't know if anybody has talked about this because I think the trailer just came out yesterday or the day before, and that's why I looked at it. This is cool. So that's one of the pages. You can see like the, beautiful, expressive, line work. What else is there? More here I can see. Le Chroniques. Have I read this one? Oh yeah, this is the same one here, sorry. So look at that. Different page, same page. that winter. So cliffs, beach. Look at that. I love this. I love this. And this is the kind of style that my Swedish artist, Joakim, on Fantastical Romy, right? He's I'll show you in a minute. That's his a similar art style. Where are you, Fantastical Romy? Open. And this is why this is the bad sort of planning by the publishers of of this book series, right? Because we've got a TV series came out that was based on our artist's work. I mean, one of our works, right? So why not release this in the Americas, as I say, right? And release it for the rest of the world to enjoy when after or during we've got this friggin' TV show out here about to release. This is why this is what I do not like about corporates. This is what they like, how Marvel and DC lost the new generation of comic readers by only concentrating on the movies and not saying go and buy this is where these characters are from, because most people friggin' didn't know where Captain America was from, comic wise, right? They would be able to sell about a couple 100,000 of these easily if they translated this right now into English. But this is a difference between, like, the corporations, one arm doesn't know what the other arm is doing. And this is one thing that I really do not like about the mainstream sort of situations. Because it really harms the actual creators of the book, right? Bashir and his and the writer, what's his name here? Dang it! I hate you. Just put me up to some. Oh, darn it! Just put me onto the other title. No, I can't see it. Hold on. Did I not just have it? Le Sentinels. So it's yeah. So when the MCU came out, it came out about what, 2010 with Iron Man, right? They had this huge opportunity to grab an entire generation of new readers for the last 15 years. By the time they realized that they dropped the friggin' egg, right, on the concrete, it was too late. And then they scrambled to, we're just going to put out merch, lots and lots of merch based on our movies, rather than going, hey, this is where these were all these characters. You can read about them more after you leave this. After you walk out the door, check out our website, check out all your local comic book stores to learn more and to read more, right? But they didn't, so that 15 years was handed over to manga. Because manga was on TV, anime was on TV. And anime was saying, see what you see here? These are from mangas. Okay, so we've just made these 12 issues of episodes of this series called Sword Art Online. But guess what? There's about 24 other volumes of this out there already that you can read to catch up on if you want. Right? And this is a clear showing of how corporations and movies and TV is so far removed from the source material than I can ever show you. The fact that this isn't even in English at all, when they're just putting out a TV show, right? That has subtitles on it that the rest of the world can watch. A lot of times, even when I'm watching English dub manga, anime, sorry, for me it's the same thing. That I actually have the subtitles on if it's available, because I want to know what the words mean in their language when it's been put it's on the screen in front of me, right? So because you learn a bit about the culture, right? So this is what I was talking about, like excuse me, hiccup or burp, whatever it was. So this is what I was talking about, like my artist Joakim's art for our book here. This is from issue 1, by the way, that we haven't even released one, and he's coloring. I think he's halfway through coloring the whole thing. That how different compared to American style, right, of comics is this expressiveness and stuff, right? No superheroes, no logos, no capes, no masks, just fantasy characters. So I'm supposed to. I just realized I've remembered that I got to have a song here about elves. I got to go and put together, because I've already done all the things, but I'm trying to come up with a lyric, a poem, whatever, song that describes the arrival of the elves to this country. Look at this. Isn't that cool or what? The marketplace, the wall of the city. Let me show you the city. Stomach. Which time is it? I think lunchtime. I think for me. Actually, it's 5:30 in the afternoon. All right, so I woke up around about 12, so it's only about 5 hours ago I woke up, because I went to bed around about maybe 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock this morning. And I was coloring, and the only reason I went to bed was because my eyes wouldn't, was getting blurry. And so I was like, okay, hold on. If I don't shut down the tablet, this work, I'm probably going to delete it accidentally if I fall asleep while working on it. Now, here we are. It's Zeolandia. It's trying to get the page to. Oh yeah, actually, I should show you Joakim's work that he did for himself. This is from a piece, and I want. Oh, did I? I imported as a pattern that he did, that I downloaded because he was showing it to me. I was like, I want to keep this for myself, and one day I want a copy of it. Like, look, because it's Constantine, and I love Constantine. It's one comic book series that I read all 300 issues of, and all side. Turn that off so I can bring this down so you guys can see a bit properly. Look at how beautiful that work is, man. His interpretation of John Constantine. And look at this. Just things going on under the ground. Or like under the water, I should say. Right, with the mermaids here. Just freaking brilliant. This is what I mean. Like, I work with some of the freaking most creative talents around in comics. And it's a blessing to be able to. And you got this, if you see here, you see this finger, you know, and hand pointing the direction. Hey, serious. I'll show you the color version of this. This is the color version. He's colored. And bring it down. And here we go. Look at that. Is that gorgeous or what? Look at the expression here. In a face, like in the eyes. Just looking in. Then you got her. And then Constantine here. Is that cool or what? But yeah, so I get to work with him, working on our Zeolandia work. And, you know, am I looking at the right one? Yep. Wait. Now I'm exporting. Hold on. Import. Number one. Covers. This is yet to finalize the colors for it. This is cover to Zeolandia number one. Cover A, I should say. And I hired him, well, I just, you know, got him to work with me based upon a drawing of his that he had, that I saw on Instagram of his. Well, he came through the publisher, of a dragon. And I said, I got to have this guy if he's willing to work with me. And then brought forward a project that was going to be 5 years later in the future to be done to now. Right, last year. So it's like, I was thinking of putting it like about 2010 is when I was going to work on this project, but I saw his work and said, oh shit, let me quickly put together the story that I'm going to write. And then spent like 6 months just going hard out writing it. Because I had the story worked out in my head, but I just had to get it on paper, right? Yeah, so yeah, I think these guys have really dropped the ball. Delcourt has dropped. Excuse me, stomach. Delcourt has really dropped the ball for their creatives, right? In not supporting their work by not putting it into English when this friggin' thing is being released onto TV screens in France, and on anyone who's got, you know, who was releasing that again? Let me just grab this. Who's releasing this? Where can you watch it? Is it? Oh, it's definitely going to be through Amazon. Oh, wait, hold on. It wasn't that one. It was at the end. They were saying something, right? Let me turn this volume off and put this up here. Studio Canel, so that's France, but like, hold on, is it being? I guess I'll ask. Who is streaming it? Is streaming it outside France? So, yeah, so obviously Studio Canel is the international distributor. So Amazon, right, there you go. So it looks like it might be yeah, so it's not going to be available in New Zealand or Australia, but Studio Canel could be licensing it out through Amazon, the OCS Amazon channel, or Cine Plus, which is European, right? Or he goes here on streaming trackers like Just Watch. The series shows listings for France only. Studio Canel, Studio Canel Plus, Cine Plus, OCS, Amazon Plus, right? See, that's even. It just keeps getting worse for this friggin' series, right? You'd think that like these guys would basically try to promote this as worldwide as possible. You know, get onto Amazon worldwide, release it through streaming on that. Then while they're doing that, release the friggin' you know, I was gonna say, what's it called? The something cut, the Snyder cut. Release the friggin' tomes, right? Release the damn tomes so that the artist and writer can earn extra bucks, and the publisher can make some money as well. The idiocy around people who use, like, especially mainstream whatever publishers who work with studios, it's like they're biting their own arm to earn the money, right? I mean, it's been 10 years since the last tome was released, right? And then also, what was it, 2025? So they've just released the collected version, by the looks of it. No, is it collected? No. Where are we? Yeah, 2016. Here goes. Term 1 to 4. Right? So they released that as the collected thing. So it looks like they're re-releasing this now, this week, but also just in French, not in English. So they were smart enough to release it in the native language, French, but not smart enough to release it as a collection or as single, 4 tomes, right, in English. Because here's the thing, and anybody can be as cynical or whatever about languages, but the world speaks English. Majority of the world speaks English. Your comic buyer, reader, viewer, entertainment viewer understands English, or is able to read English or speak English, because it's like Rome, right? You got to be able to, or Latin in the old days. Everybody has their own native tongue, but universally, everybody understands English is the vocal currency. But, it's their choice, and they've just, hopefully they are releasing it, maybe. But, GBT said, they ain't. But as you can see, they are releasing it in French, right? Because that's there. Where are we? One? No. Where's one? Yeah. Nope. So that came out in 2016. This comes out soon, and next week. This comes out next week. This comes out next week. So somewhere here is number 1. Where's 1? 1. It's that rap song. Yeah, there you go. So they're all coming out next week in English. Sorry, in French. So yeah. Bloody Delcourt, man. They had an opportunity here to really, really do something special with this series that they've spent a lot of money making as a TV series. Yet, the writers and the artists will probably get, royalties, depending on what the contract says. But they could have got more universally by being in English than in French speaking. So Canada gets it. I get Tahiti, where they speak French, Polynesia, right? And France. Or maybe, other places in Europe where they speak French. But yeah, this is something that really is worrisome when the connection between the studio that produces the live action doesn't connect with the world at large, right? Especially after having such a what looks like a very, very cool TV series, right? The Sentinels, right? You can watch the trailer to that on this channel, right? On my channel, whatever. Here later, but it's based on I didn't even know, there was no mention of it early that it was based on these friggin' books, right? Which shows you that they're not telling you, that they don't really care for the comics, they just care for the live action, like Marvel and DC did 15 years ago. 10 years ago, sorry, it's weird, 2025. Yeah. No, 15 years ago, yeah. When they started in the MCU. So they don't really care about the comic creators, they just care about the IPs. And as I mentioned, going back to the circle, I'm talking about how all new characters and new comic releases are just more money to bolster up their shares, right? Every new product that new character, new book that's released, it just bolsters up the shareholder pricing, of that company. And I think Delcourt totally dropped the ball in not making this in English. Not putting this out in English, but releasing it just in French the next week. They could have, if they didn't want to release all the single volumes, right? These 56-page full color, single volumes, 4 single volumes into English. They could have just done the whole friggin' thing into English from there. Set it up, said, hey, we got a friggin' TV show coming out end of September. We need a deal to get this put out into the rest of the world, in the English-speaking world. Can someone give us a good deal that we can utilize the TV show into getting people to buy the original comic books? They were written about in 2008 to to, what year was it? 2014, right? So they started working on it in 2008, but now, you know, they spent, what, 4 years? Was it 4 years, 6 years? 6 years working on it. By the time they got around to finishing, you know, publishing it. It was a while. But yeah, man, I'm excited for the TV show because it's based in World War One. Alternative version, right, of World War One. And it's based around radiation batteries instead of super soldier serums. And I would love to have read this, or had the opportunity to read this in English, because I can't read French. But it's so sad that they're not releasing it in English. Even after a friggin' decade. Yeah, it's like, they have a whole fucking TV show, excuse my language, to promote this, to use it to promote this, and they're not. To sell hundreds, well, I would say like 50,000 copies, right? Easy. But they're not. Because they're not releasing it in English. You know. And this is one thing I find is quite arrogant of the French, is that they don't like to speak English. Let alone translate to English. But that's their cultural thing, I guess. Yeah, that's why they have like one side of Canada that speaks French, and the other side that speaks English, right? Because it's just what they are culturally arrogant when it comes to speaking English, right? The French and English. But anyway, hopefully you guys go check out the trailer for this. It's on my channel. It's here, and it's the Sentinels based on less Sentinels. You know, 224 page series. World War One, alternate history. I love the artwork, man. Like, it's beautiful artwork. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. Hopefully I distracted you for a bit from whatever you know has been going on in your life, and from, you know, what we're dealing with CK, with Charlotte Kirk there. But thank you, and we'll catch you soon on the flip side. Wherever you are, be well and have an amazing day with your loved ones, around your loved ones, and we'll catch you on the next on the flip side, on the next one. Ka kite anō, and bye for now.
Nope. Can't stay here anymore. I gotta get back. I think this was the spot. Oh Lord, I beseech thee, please return me to my old life. I swear I'll do anything. Like, literally anything. And I won't bother you again, so pretty please bring me back to life.